Welcome to The Freight Break with your host, Dan Lindsey, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the trucking industry. We're talking real conversations, real relationships, and real insight that keep the wheels turning.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Freight Break, the flagship podcast of the Broker Carrier Summit, the BCS Freight Network, and your go-to podcast for navigating the logistics and transportation industries. I am your host, Dan Lindsey, and each week we bring you insights from industry experts to help you win the freight game. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, let's go ahead and kick it over to TIE Software.
Meet TIE Software's workflow automation, built to help LTL and FTL freight brokers boost productivity. Use custom prompts to automate repetitive tasks like status updates, carrier changes, and shipment alerts right in the platform. Manage operations with automated scheduling, carrier management, and real-time updates. Workflow automation removes bottlenecks, freeing you up to grow your business. Best of all, it's easy to set up and use. No coding or tech skills required. Choose your workflows and TIE does the rest. Book a demo today and see how TIE makes efficiency happen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this segment of Breaking It Down. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges that carriers are facing in the market today. Not just carriers, but brokers as well. To do so, I'm bringing on my good friend, partner in crime on the BCS Freight Movement Big Road Tour and the president and founder of GLCS, the one, the only, Nate Johnson. Nate, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for lowering yourself to come on this show.
It's a big drop, brother. It's I have to take many steps down to get here, but here we are. So
mostly it's because I'm much shorter than Nate. That's what it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, Nate, I'm glad you're able to come on, my friend. Let's talk about. I feel like I'm talking with a lot of tech companies right now about the challenges in the marketplace, and one of the reasons I think for that is because technology is the solver of many problems and is the creator of many others, at least from the perspective of the user sometimes. So you sit in a very unique position in that you advise carriers and brokers on how to envision their technology stack, how to use technology. So give us some background as to what GLCS is and does, and then talk to us also about what some of the challenges that your customers are seeing right now.
Sure. So the difference with us is, why we consider ourselves as a technology company, we advise our clients on the use of technology. So, we represent them in the industry to technology companies, to those freight tech organizations. And in many instances, we understand how our customers operate at a very intimate level. So we've sat in their chairs, we sit there and we study how they work in a level that most organizations do not. And everyone at GLCS comes from transportation and logistics. We've sat in the chair, we've operated the companies, we've sold the freight, we've dispatched the trucks, we've worked in the safety department. We've wrenched, whatever the case might be. We've kind of filled every role in the organizations. In some cases, we've actually gone in and operated trucking companies as an interim to ready them for sale. And so we have that aptitude to be able to operate a trucking company where we need to. So when you're speaking with us, you're actually hearing voices of our customers in some instances. And we represent hundreds of trucking companies and dozens of brokerages, but in many cases, our trucking companies have brokerages as well. So what we do, we're first and foremost a managed service provider for our clients. And that means we provide them technology services so we can manage all of their technology, whether it's email, whether it's handling their what we would call proprietary systems, so your Microsoft, your whatever infrastructure that you might have, your normal systems, and then we do the abnormal non-proprietary systems that would include like a TMS or a WMS or your asset maintenance software that no one else out there really knows how to manage outside of your internal IT. And we can become your internal IT. We can augment your internal IT, or just give that through that augmentation, we can give that internal IT superpowers. So we have dozens of people on staff that know how to manage that software. And so instead of calling or hiring one person to teach them how to manage a particular solution or multiple solutions, you can hire that one person to manage your day-to-day, keep the lights on, and when they need to lean into someone who understands something in great detail and respond as you would want them to very quickly within your organization. Once again, we don't represent the vendor, we represent the customer, the carrier, the broker, the shipper. We're going to respond real quickly and help them out. So that's typically what we do on a daily basis. We also do a lot of integrations and software development, and work with about 100,000 trucks on our platform there too. So,
yeah, excellent. So when it comes to the conversations that companies are having around technology, how have you seen those change in the last few years? What are the challenges that companies are trying to use technology to overcome right now?
So it's cost reduction first and foremost right now. We've seen, if you look at Atri's study over the last 15 years, the costs have gone up and revenue has, for the most part, stayed the same or gone up a little bit. But the costs have excessively climbed. And in many cases, that's associated with driver pay and the cost of a truck. But you've seen costs increase exponentially, and yet, revenue's gone up not at the same rate. So we've had to learn how to do business more efficiently. And, I always talk about people, process, and technology, right? And it kind of goes in that order. If you have really great people and you apply really great processes on top of really great technology, you're going to operate extremely efficiently. If you have really bad people and really great processes with really bad technology, you're going to do okay. Or really bad people, you're going to do horribly because you have really bad people. So, it all comes down to, if you have really great people, really poor processes, really poor technology, you're probably still going to operate acceptably because you have a really good core group of people. But if you start leveraging, process drives technology. So that's typically what you'll find out. In many cases, you can invert that right now and say that technology can sometimes drive process in the world that we currently are in, with AI and machine learning and all of the automations that we're going down. We're finding that that's adjusting processes and reducing headcount. The question is should you reduce headcount? Or a great discussion I had last week was, should you increase customer touch points to create more opportunities? What are you doing with this reduction in headcount? Right now, we're looking at reduction in costs. If you look at maintenance, for example, using technology to optimize maintenance, that's been a big capitalization over the last decade, and it's worked. You look at the cost of maintenance on a truck, and it's relatively been flat. That's odd. You look at the cost of a truck, and the cost of maintenance has stayed the same. That doesn't make sense to me over a decade, how that's been able to maintain the same. But it's done through optimization. It's done through predictive analytics. It's done through catching errors on trucks before they end up out in the field. So doing the repair on the truck before it actually happens, not having the breakdown out, the unscheduled maintenance instead of the scheduled maintenance. Unscheduled maintenance is multiples more expensive than scheduled maintenance. So
yeah, and that's one of the things. I was talking to a driver the other day. He had a breakdown on the side of the road, and he said 10 years ago it would have cost X. Now I'm paying 4 times what I paid,
right?
Just for the tow bill.
Yeah,
and it's not like he was in the middle of nowhere either.
Right. Predatory towing is a thing, but towing is expensive though. Okay, let's get down to it. Towing sucks. You don't want to be towed. That's expensive. So you can be mad at the towing company, but also understand that they're showing up with a $600,000 truck or potentially $1 million truck. I mean, depending upon what you have, if you have an $80,000 if you have an 80,000 pound truck and you need to haul that whole unit off in one piece, I mean, they potentially are showing up with a very expensive piece of equipment with a driver that's skilled. It might be 2:00 in the morning and you want to get off of the freeway. You know, this is not cheap equipment. And on top of that, they're like everyone else. They have utilization. They need to do a certain amount of work a day to get it, to make it function. So what you don't want to see is that $25,000 tow bill to go 4 miles. You know, that's
Right.
not fair, you know.
That doesn't sit well.
No, it doesn't sit well, and that's when you get into the predatory scenario. But seeing a tow for $1,000 or $2,000 for certain scenarios, you know, in the past that might have been $500, but everything has gone exponential, especially when it comes down to human capital and just, I mean, where a tow truck would have been, or a wrecker would have been $300,000 a few years ago, it's very likely $700,000 or $600,000 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that interplay between, you mentioned it earlier, headcount and technology. So I heard two things when you were saying that. One, I heard that technology is not going to replace people because we need to interact people with technology. It can.
There's choice. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that companies should consider? And obviously this is going to change based on whether it's a brokerage or a carrier or a tech forward company or a fleet size carrier or a small business. What are some of the considerations that companies should take into account when envisioning what technologies they're going to use? And more importantly, what technologies are going to focus on implementing in the short term?
So first and foremost, technology can come after your job and it can take your job. It doesn't have to. And I think that's a question that people have to ask. But if you think that technology is not going to come after your job, then you're probably going to lose your job. So you need to shore up on that. You need to be aware that I need to stay on top of the new technology. I need to be aware of what's out there, and I need to be ahead of it. I need to be able to manage that technology. And if you're ahead of the technology and aware of that technology and cutting edge yourself, you're probably going to be valuable enough to manage that technology and help deploy it and be a champion of it. But if you're not paying attention, you will probably get overrun by it. And this industry is moving extremely fast along the deployment of technology. And that's something that we've never done before. We've always been very slow to adopt, very slow to deploy, and very bad at deployment. We've been very bad at deployment, and our adoption rate is much higher than it's ever been before. And our ability to consume these small projects instead of large projects has started to happen. So we're doing these micro projects where we used to do macro projects. And so that's partially because all of our solutions have all parsed out and all of our TMSs have started to decouple and become smaller products. So to your point, you know, what should companies be out there looking for? So you do want to look at, how can this free up my headcount? How can this because freeing up headcount is reducing hours on repetitive tasks. So, you know, one of the largest areas that we see this in is back office repetitive processes. And that, so there's two categories that I look at it is, can you reduce man hours on repetitive tasks, or can you increase utilization of your assets to create opportunity to increase revenue? And if that's the shining star there, right? If you can take something that's making $1 and make $1.20 without increasing your top line cost too much, then that's the big win, right? If you don't have to increase your head count and can suddenly gain a 20% increase in revenue, or 10% or 8%, that's massive, right? That there's nothing you can do from a cost reduction standpoint to combat that. Even a 3%, if you have 1,000 trucks and you can somehow find a 2 or 3% increase in top line revenue, there's almost nothing you can do to reduce your expenses that's going to have that level of impact. So that's the big cherry, is to find products that can do that. And I mean, primarily they're optimization related products. So things that will, reduce deadhead, increase utilization on trucks, that type of thing. So then you go into, just automation and what's going to limit repetitive use of man hours. And we've seen scenarios where 25, 30 person staffs that are all doing the same functions do get reduced by 50% very, very quickly because of those repetitive tasks. They're all those people are doing the same thing. Do they all get redeployed? Typically not. So they all don't necessarily get redeployed, but some of them do. So now I think there's a culture shift that's probably going to come to what I said earlier on. Potentially some of these people should be refocused, because as we automate, we are potentially moving down this road of losing some of the human value that we have in our organizations, and redoubling our effort to touch base more with our customers and more internally as well. I think that's potentially the next evolution of this, is to create more of an effort to touch base with one another, both customers, internal and external, as we go forward. So some of that cost savings has to be reflected back internally eventually.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I talk about with people all the time was, technology or AI, it may come and take your job, but it's never going to be able to replace the relationships that you have with people. And I think that's one of the big things we've seen over the last few years is AI has come in, different platforms have come in, and sometimes companies, individuals try and relegate or delegate rather to the tech the things they should be doing themselves relationally. And to your point, I think in this new, there's almost a buzz or a frenzy around freight tech right now, which, like you said, is weird. It's not normally been the case. But I think some of the backlash of that has been a renewed focus on personal relationships.
Well, the wave has been the delay that this industry had in adopting technology. I mean, we were very process oriented and manpower oriented for a long time, and we were we still are very cost adverse, and we still are slow to adopt for large expenses related to solutions. There's no doubt about that. But many of these solutions, as we move to SaaS, became monthly expenses. So, instead of spending $250,000 or $500,000 on something, now we're spending $2,000 a month. And that's much more palatable to a CEO or CIO than, $2,000 a month times 12, 24,000 times 3. So, what were you at? 76,000. So 76,000, as opposed to $2,000 a month. So, roughly that would be the number that would probably equate to. So, do you want to spend 76,000 out of your pocket, or do you want to spend $2,000 a month for 3 years? Most are going to be a lot easier to sell at $2,000 a month. And that's what we're finding. That's what we're seeing adopt. So we're seeing that wave kind of happen a lot faster now. And you're also seeing the changes happen. So this solution, we're not going to do this solution anymore. We're going to switch to this solution, so on and so forth. So there's a lot more change where, in the past, you would not see that change happen. Someone would pick a solution and stick with it for a decade. And now we pick the solution, we keep it for 3 years. Now we're picking a different solution. In some cases, we have some customers that'll pick 5 solutions, try all 5. And then 3 years later, they'll stick with one. I mean, why? Because it's $2,000 a month times 5. The cost of selecting the wrong solution is so high that you would rather select many solutions, try them all, and figure out which one best fits for the organization and let the others idle out on a term and go with the one that best fits your organization through determining it through a period of time of use. So that happens quite often right now.
Well, to the point where change management has become a whole kind of sub-industry within not only within logistics, but in every industry. It's like, oh, you can manage the change as opposed to managing the one project that you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, change management as a profession goes back 40 years. I mean, if not longer. I mean, it really comes from automotive, and it goes back a long ways. But this industry started to adopt it in the 90s, and then started truly adopting it more and more turn of the century. But the reality of it now is, I think, when you start looking at any project, if you're any established organization, you're thinking change management, where 15 years ago, that was not the case. That was certainly not the case. But everyone's thinking, how is everyone going to take the impact of this particular product? Where 15 years ago, it was, we bought it, take it, use it, figure it out. You know, here's the keys, go drive the truck, sort of thing. And
40 years later, you're still on AS 400.
Right. Absolutely.
Trying to figure life out.
Yep.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit, because so we've been friends for a couple of years now, since I think the first time we met was in Tampa at the second GLCS.
Right, which was only 2 years ago. That's
dude. It feels like I know that it was only 2 years ago. It feels like it was a decade ago. It really does.
Yeah.
Because so much has happened since then, including more focus on events, not only the national events, the big trade shows, but also the local and regional events. Hence the conversation around freight movement. Talk to us about what you're doing over there, freight movement, and why in the world will we partner with you guys? So,
Sure. Well, yeah. So freight movement was kind of a shimmer in our eye back when we first met. And, so the idea of freight movement was, there was lots of big events going on, and we wanted to start getting together. So Jenny Malfreen and I got together and said, we want to start doing small events. And we first gathered with a larger group of people, and we were thinking, oh, we're going to get some funding on this and whatever. And I didn't like that idea. So everyone else kind of went away, and Jenny and I were sitting there. And so we bootstrapped it and started going kind of slow roll. And that was definitely the right way to go, because small events, just letting everyone kind of dictate to us what they wanted to see and how that needed to feel, and how it continues to evolve. And I think 2026 will be very interesting as we continue to expand on that. So, and last year about this time, we started having a discussion about the tour. So, we were thinking of a tour, you guys were thinking of a tour, and I don't think either one of us wanted to really fully commit to the tour on our own. And so the idea was, let's just jump in and see what happens. And so the first tour location was Manifest. And who would have thought that, that was kind of gutsy to throw in on
that was a ballsy move. I'm not going to lie. That was a ballsy move.
Anytime we do for those that have never run an event in Vegas, it's beyond throwing dice. So you hope that you're going to pull the people, but you got to kind of put a credit card down and hope that those people show up, and they did. And it was a great event. So, and then from there on out, I think we've had a lot of learning experiences about what it takes to run small events, and it's been a blast. And I think the industry as a whole has dictated to us in general that they want more small events. We've seen so many other people over the last year start doing more of these on their own. I mean, certainly, Freight Caviar's done a lot of them. Truck Parking Club's done a lot of them, but I've seen so many other organizations start popping up and doing these on their own too now over the last year as well. And, I'm not taking credit for that in any way, shape, or form, but it just signifies that small structured events of some kind are something that I think that our industry, or potentially any industry, is looking for. And it comes down to, what are the the big conferences kind of missing? And that user engagement, or that attendee engagement is so important, but also just being able to get to the local places. Something that BCS does well is it moves around. It's several times a year. The price point's right. I think that's something that we've been able to do well and capitalize with the tour, is get out and engage, well over 1,000 people now, I think. And it's been a blast. Yeah. So,
well, I think one of the things that underscores, and we've been saying this at the BCS since the Tampa event, I think at the end of the event in Tampa, I got on stage and I said, what the freight industry needs is not another conference. There are plenty of those. What the freight industry needs is a new kind of community, a new kind of network. And I think what we're seeing with not only with Freight Movement, but as you mentioned, with all these different companies, all these different individuals, getting freight professionals together, going out to a ball game, going out for a happy hour, just going and doing things together. People crave community. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing this shift back toward relationships and deepening connections and building network in the industry.
Yeah, we see the same thing. I agree with you. We have our first ambassador starting. So we have every month we'll be running a Freight Movement event in Minnesota now. But it's run by a group it's run by, I'm not going to fully announce it because I want the people who are doing it to fully announce it. But every month there'll be an event in Minnesota under the Freight Movement banner with some folks that have been passionate about the events. We haven't done one in Minnesota in almost a year. They wanted more events in Minnesota, so we're going to help them and get it going. We're going to use our media channels to help them get it going, but they wanted it in Minnesota. So we're going to do everything we can to help them do it in Minnesota. And they're going to do a lot of the legwork, and love them for it. They love the messaging. They love that type of thing. But that stuff, we also have a few other discussions going on with people in other areas of the country that want to do similar type things. So they're not going to be the stuff that we did on the tour, but they're still going to be something along those lines, which just dictates that, hey, people want these type of events. So they want that community. And I think something in transportation that we've seen throughout our career, and I'm coming up on 3 decades in it, is you go back and you look at who you consider your friends are. And in my case, almost everybody's in transportation. So, that is my group of friends. And, I'm lining up a guy's weekend to go golfing in Las Vegas, and everybody's in transportation that's going. So it's just,
it makes sense.
Exactly.
So we just closed out our event, our event in Denver a little while ago.
Right.
That was a fantastic event, great time. Met a lot of good people, and looking forward to seeing them, many of them actually, at the Broker Carrier Summit here very soon.
Fair enough. Coming up in Orlando. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet,
October 28th to 30th, Orlando. We're going to be closing it out at the House of Blues. Couple of special things going on there. One of them is the Battle of the Bands. The other one, I can't really say anything about it yet. But if you know me, and the things that I like to enjoy, you might have a couple of hints about what that might involve. So it'll have
something to do with whiskey and cigars.
It's a good chance.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, Nate, always a pleasure, my friend. Great having you on, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Appreciate it, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right, well, that's our show for today, everyone. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in. Also, be sure to head over to BrokerCarrierSummit.com to find out what's going on within the BCS Freight Network and to sign up for the next Broker Carrier Summit or an event near you.